Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Moving Markets Podcast. It is Monday, October the 27th, 2025. And at the time I am recording this, let's see, how long have the markets been open now? 3.5 hours, I want to say. It's 11:05 Pacific time. This is my last day on the Pacific Coast. I will fly home this afternoon. That's why I'm doing this a little bit early. Usually my Monday podcast is at the close of the market. And I'm doing this much earlier. There's still about 2 full hours of trading left to go. And that is specifically because I'll be getting on a plane in the general time. I won't be getting on the plane. I'll be leaving for the airport about the time the markets close today. So wanted to get this going and get this done earlier than normal. Having another good day in the stock market as of right now with about 2 hours left of trading, maybe just a little less than that. Dow Jones Industrial Average up 212, S&P up a full percent at almost 70 points to the upside. And the NASDAQ up almost 400 points, getting 1.75%, getting close to 2% to the upside. And I think it's all about China. I think it's just it's all about, it's not the leading headline right here. These are your 3 leading headlines. Qualcomm announces some chips that are going to compete with AMD and NVIDIA. Their stock is way up today. Tesla having, I think the Tesla board wants to give Elon Musk the pay package that he's asking for, that his lawyers have negotiated. It's government that has absolutely no business telling a company what they can or can't pay the reason for their existence, the reason for all their success. I think it's just ridiculous. And it's because some idiot somewhere filed a lawsuit and doesn't want Elon to have the kind of money he has. It's just ridiculous. Anyway, the third, running headline in order, largest federal worker union urges into government shutdown. If it wasn't already bad enough for the Democrats, you've got some of their allies are now turning on them and saying, hey, this has got to change. We need to get the government back open. But all of this, I think, in the trading today is really being overshadowed by this right here, the potential trade truce with China. News broke at the end of last week or over the weekend sometime that the negotiators for the United States, the negotiators for China, had reached a framework or they had basically agreed to a trade deal that simply now has to be probably fine-tuned a little bit and approved by the 2 respective leaders of these countries. So I think Trump is going to approve pretty much anything that Scott Bessent and his team and the other negotiators are putting together for the United States. The question is, will Xi Jinping, the dictator of China, will he agree to whatever those negotiators have come up with? So I don't think there's much of a question on whether the United States is going to be willing to stand behind what they're working on. But the question will simply be, will Xi Jinping do it? But it's the hope of that deal that's really fanning the flames of this market. Qualcomm, I'm sure this is the top trending article on CNBC's website because it might be more largely responsible for the NASDAQ specifically, but the S&P, the Dow, they're both up like this. This is almost a kind of a reminder that this is what's really driving things right there. So interesting stuff, fun stuff. Earnings continue to pour in this week. I'm not going to comment a lot more on what the market is doing. If we get the government reopened this week, I think that will add a little bit of fuel to an already raging fire, which is this very bullish market. If we just look at the NASDAQ, for example, after that last little dip, and we talked about this a couple weeks ago, the last little dip, it just, taken off to the upside again. I don't think this bullish market is in jeopardy of disappearing anytime soon. I think we will continue to have these little pullbacks that go anywhere from a couple of days to maybe a week. This was kind of wobbly and flat for about a full week and a half. I think we'll continue to get that. I think every time we have a run that lasts 2 or 3 weeks, you're going to have that little pullback. So my prediction would be probably 2, maybe 3 more of those before the year is over. In all likelihood, we are going to hear about a rate cut this week. I don't think it's likely or even probable that we would get a 50 basis point hike, but I personally don't think that should be completely taken off the table. The betting market is not suggesting we're going to get anything more than a 25 basis point cut, but you've got new voices at the Fed. You've got a Fed that has been notoriously behind in almost every move they've made. Jerome Powell lied to us just blatantly bald-faced lied to us for nearly a year, or maybe a little over a year during Biden's early part of his administration, telling us inflation was only transitory. He's not trusted by the administration to do the right thing, but Trump has been able to get some people in there around him, and I don't think Lisa Cook is going to survive hanging on to her job. I think before the time Jerome Powell is out, which I believe is in May of next year, I think Lisa Cook will be gone, because I think it's going to be proven in court that she has committed the mortgage fraud that she's been accused of. You cannot have her on the Fed with that having taken place. So Trump's going to get more people on the Fed, and maybe with maybe seeing the writing on the wall, Jerome Powell does what I think would be the right thing. At the very minimum, give not only a 25 basis point cut this week, but also I think he's got to sound a little more optimistic about future cuts. I think he's got to talk about December being pretty much a sure deal. Right now, it's looking pretty certain, but he's got to talk more about December being a sure deal. And he's got to talk about more than 1 or 2 cuts in the early part. Like in these first 3 Fed meetings, January, March, and April, there's no February meeting. In these first 3 Fed meetings of 2026, he's probably got to talk about at least bare minimum 1 or 2 more cuts. I think 1 is already expected in those 3 months. But I think he needs to talk about the possibility of a couple cuts early on. So we'll see what happens with that. But that's going to be big when Wednesday comes and we hear what specifically he has to say. We're once again in a situation where these other reports, we may or may not get some of this information. I think some of these are kind of independent reports. Others are government reports that will not come out. This one says delayed, I think, because it's today. I think as we get over here, consumer confidence will be delayed. Trade, pending home sales. I think these others are going to be delayed as we get into the week, because I don't think I think the Democrats are still a week to maybe 2 weeks away from doing the right thing. I think they're going to have to eventually, reluctantly, they're going to do it, but I think it's going to take a little bit. Listen, because it is Monday and I'm doing this podcast early, I don't have a new trade yet for this week. I am working on one. I will get the Signal newsletter sent out with a new trade before I go to the airport today, but we won't be able to talk about it until tomorrow. I'm going to do it until tomorrow. Tomorrow, I'm going to do a podcast. Probably it's going to be late morning in Mountain Standard Time. It's probably going to be sometime between 10 and noon, but we'll talk about the trade that we send out. I'm going to keep working on that for the next hour and a half or so before I have to head out to the airport, and we'll get that put together and get that out. So that's where we're at for I did send 3 trades out on the triple play side of things. Long iron condors, all of them, one on Boeing, one on Caterpillar, one on Google. I don't think the Caterpillar one is going to fill at all because the mid price on that has gone ridiculously high from where it was when I was looking this morning. The Boeing trade filled. I think the Google trade might still fill, and I might play around with strike price and expirations for tomorrow morning if it doesn't fill today. I'm going to leave that one open and hope it fills, and then we'll talk more about those tomorrow as well. You've got Boeing and Caterpillar, I believe, report on, I want to say Boeing and Caterpillar are on Wednesday before the market opens, I believe. No, maybe Tuesday. I might be, maybe it's. Before the open on Wednesday. There's Boeing, there's Caterpillar. They both report. And then Google reports Wednesday at the close of the market, along with Meta and Microsoft. I looked at some numbers on Carvana. They've been a really big mover on their earnings. We've tried a couple of times to get into trades on them and done really well when we have. I couldn't find any numbers that worked, and I didn't see anything else that's reporting before Thursday or Wednesday afternoon that looks really good to me. So what I might do is go out and look at those companies that are reporting on Thursday morning and Thursday afternoon. You got Amazon, Apple, Coin. Those are the three really big ones that are reporting on Thursday afternoon. I might look at adding a trade for one of those, but it would be for next week's expiration, not this week's expiration. So that's what we're looking at on a Monday. I hope you're having a great Monday. Hope you had a great weekend. I'm going to wrap up right there. And like I said, tomorrow, sometime between 10 and noon Mountain Time, I'll get a podcast out where I'll talk about our new SOS trade. Thanks, everyone.